Might as well call it all for nothing because that's what it feels like. Welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. Hey all, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JustinoTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Might as well call the documentary all for nothing because that's what it feels like right now. That's what it feels like in the fan base. Today is going to be more of a talk through, get your guys' comments up on the screen, comments and questions, talk through it because it feels like we need a little bit of a therapy session from this transfer window. It feels like gut punch after gut punch after gut punch, but I feel like there's a bigger conversation to have around what was the actual plan behind this transfer window, and did we have bigger aspirations for it than the club did. I get it. Like I do, I get it. I think that, you know, when the Vlahovic news came out, I felt like, well, here we go again. We're not going to hear the end of this, because there were so many Arsenal fans that were really, really confident or just really excited about this potential signing. And it never felt like it was going to happen. It never felt close. It never felt doable because if you don't have the players buy-in, if they don't want to come to the club, you have you don't stand a chance. And once Juventus got mentioned and that was like the main club that he wanted to go to, it just became very, very clear that we were being used to get Juventus to make a bid sooner rather than later. And the rest is history. The rest is history. Vlahovic is basically a Juventus player. We don't know how they got the money. We know that they're skint, but nevertheless, we're sitting here with no striker, no options, no nothing. And I was annoyed by it more because I just hate the feeling of disappointment. And that for me has kind of been my Arsenal story over the last 10 years or so. Just disappointment after disappointment, being so close, but just getting pipped by this club, being 1 or 2 points away from being in this qualification, just years and years of disappointment. So I don't even like to get my hopes up. And I'm very much I'm not trying to get hurt, so I'm going to act like it's not happening. But I knew Vlahovic wasn't going to happen. There was no point in getting excited about that. And I just feel like maybe I am a little bit harsh on the section of the fan base that wants to remain positive and keep hope alive, because if they don't have hope, what do they have? So I can't expect people to rationalize with this whole transfer window and transfer stuff with Arsenal the way that I do. So maybe, I'm taking it the wrong way, and I get it. You want to hope and believe that the club is doing the right things, but you have to look at it from the perspective of also like Arsenal fans that are sick and tired. And a lot of us are sick and tired of feeling the almost like in this cycle of, we're almost there. We could push a little bit and get this player, get that player, and potentially make our targets, and we don't do it. And then we end up not only not making our targets, but maybe even lower than we expected. And when that happens year after year after year, it's hard to give the club the benefit of the doubt. Even when there's probably moments that you should, it is very, very difficult. And I have to be honest, one good window where we were successful in bringing in players in that $20 to $30 million range besides Ben White, and we were successful in that, and we were able to bring in those players that saw Arsenal as a step up. that's not enough for me to forget all the windows that we just let it pass us by and we rocked up with Peter Cech and El Neni. Like, it's not going to change overnight. So equally, as much as I will have more patience for the Arsenal, the part of the fan base that wants to be more positive, they also need to have some patience with those that have ran out of patience. There are just some Arsenal fans that just do not believe in the club and need to see it to believe it. And so I think that's kind of where we are in the fan base right now. Now, this morning, the Vlahovic news had already kind of come out. He's going to Juventus. It's over. Who are the new targets? Gunner Blog and, some other outlets were coming out with, potential other options. And the fan base clung on to Alexander Isak. And just like that, a report came out just like, it was lickety split right after, and almost like as if it was jinxed, that he is not interested in coming to Arsenal either. And so another kick in the teeth. And you could say, well, maybe he's not our number one target and we were just looking at him, so it's fine. But we know we need a striker and we know we need a central midfielder. And it depends on what side of the fence you sit on. And personally, I sit on the side of the fence where I don't think we're as close to top four as some people feel like we are. And equally, I think that we are marginally better than the teams that are sitting in seventh and eighth, marginally. And so when I look at it, I'm thinking, why can't we secure a couple of signings just to ensure that we keep the level of the team relatively the same if the inevitable happens of Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka being unavailable for the next 17 matches? If they miss, they have to be pretty much available, both of them, for the rest of the season for me to feel like we're going to be doing anything. So it's not me being negative. It's just sometimes you just have to keep it real. And my reality right now is that I don't see much daylight between us, Spurs, West Ham, and Wolves. And I think those are the teams that are going to be fighting for fifth and sixth. Newsflash, 4 teams fighting for it. Only 2 teams can get it. And 1 team is going to be in Europa Conference League, and the other one is going to be in no Europe at all. And so for me, it just is kind of like we can't go with what we have. We can't go with what we have. You can't go with, once you scratch beyond the surface of Xhaka and Partey, we're talking about El Neni and Lokonga. You can't go with Lacazette, and then if he's not there, then you're looking at Eddie Nketiah. No top team is going with 21-year-olds in their midfield trying to run it on their own. They just don't, and so if we want to count ourselves amongst the teams that are really fighting for fourth, then we need to have depth in our squad equal to those teams. Because if we don't have the perfect 11 and if they don't play out of their skin, we're not winning any games. With a rotated and kind of banged up squad, you can't beat Burnley. So what are we really out here trying to fool ourselves into thinking that this group can do it? They can't, so that's where the frustration is really coming from. And that's where, I just feel like if you sit on the side of the fence where you think that, because we're only 2 points behind the top 4, that means that we're close to it, so we're fine. And then there's the other side where it's kind of like the group that we have is not going to get us over the line. I think we're much closer to 8th than we are to 4th in terms of our squad makeup. We have too many kids in the squad. The senior players are not stepping up, and other teams are more equipped to fight for that spot than we are. And personally, I don't have much confidence that we make it into the European spots without reinforcements. And I don't feel bad saying it. I don't feel negative saying it. I don't feel like Leanne Gunner saying it. I don't feel any of that, because I'm putting my flag in the sand right here. I just don't think the squad is good enough. I don't, so there you go. But now that we've touched 4th, I feel like, and because there's a spot available that would not have been available if Manchester United was not playing like shit, I would expect the club to try to at least make try to push for it or try to improve the squad in this window. And I have to be honest, I'm not completely convinced that we went into this window with very much incentive to improve the squad. Now, you're saying we put in a bid to go after Vlahovic, but I think that that was opportunity that we thought we could take advantage of because we know we were never going to have an opportunity to get him in the summer. So we tried to get him now. But if Vlahovic was not available, would we have tried to get a striker? And would we have tried to get a midfielder? I don't know. I don't know. I have to be honest, you guys. I'm not convinced that we were actually going to go out in this window and do much now that things have kind of unfolded the way that they have. And I have personally tempered my expectations of this window as of now because I think the Vlahovic hype made it feel like the club was trying to do something big, but it was an opportunity that we weren't able to get over the line. And so now, I mean, if you're Adu and Arteta, what's stopping you from saying, you know what, after the break, Thomas Partey and Xhaka will be available to us. El Neni will be back from AFCON sometime soon. So, and the team will be rested. So why sign anyone? You know, let's just wait till the summer. Because that's kind of what they were going to do anyway. That's kind of was the plan this whole time, was to go with what we had, to go with Granit and Thomas and just wing it. So I think I'm okay with at this point saying, you know what, maybe nothing really happens in this window. Maybe we bring in the goalkeeper, maybe we don't. Maybe we try to reintroduce Aubameyang back into the squad, maybe we don't. But I also, based on this window, will temper my expectations for the league because I don't care if we don't have any cups to fight for or whatever. We are not making top four with this group. And we are also on the knife's edge, really, of making top six with this group as well, as far as I'm concerned. So that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. And it's, you know, maybe tomorrow there's a signing, but it doesn't feel like anything is really going on. And I know that they showed Arteta in the US kind of hanging out with the Cronkies, and people were speculating that it was to ask for more transfer funds, but it could have just been him talking about his new deal. So it just is what it is. And I do sit on the fence of, we probably weren't going to do much in this window anyway. And Vlahovic was an opportunity. It didn't happen. So now we go back to, let's just wait into the summer to go after our real targets. Will our targets be interested in coming to Arsenal if we don't make it into the top four/top six/Europe? I don't know. And that's the risk that maybe the club is willing to take. But I'm telling you, that is a big freaking risk for Arsenal Football Club that I would not be trying to take. Let's see what you guys are saying. Matt G is saying, I'd love to sit in a meeting with Adu and Arteta. I have no idea who's Arteta's ideal midfielder. Bruno is different to Artur. Unless we are aiming to get 2 midfielders this month. I mean, we don't know. We don't know. After the Bruno, news came out and that he's going to potentially and most likely end up at Newcastle, of course it was upsetting to me because I just think that a lot of teams are improving around us and bringing in players that could improve us as well. But we are sitting at standstill, acting as though there's not another red card in Granit Xhaka and there's not another injury in Thomas Partey. And when it happens, it'll happen quick, it'll happen fiercely, and we'll be sitting there past the January transfer window trying to figure out how to piecemeal this team together in probably a difficult point in our season. Let's not act like we haven't seen this happen before. So we don't know what the ideal midfielder is. Maybe we are trying to get 2 midfielders in, but I have to be honest with you, Matt. I am not convinced that we wanted to do much in this window because we're not doing anything. It doesn't feel like it. And they can, we always move in silence and all this kind of stuff. It's 5 days to the window ends. So at this point, you would think that you would start to hear something a little bit more concrete if we were trying to get things done. And it just doesn't feel that way. So, we don't know anything, but it just doesn't feel like it. It's just, I don't know. Yo-Yo says Arteta's ceiling is lower than the squad's. Arsenal finished fifth and reached the Europa final before him. People claim his cup um, end of end of Deadwood. People claimed his cup end of Deadwood. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't I don't know how anybody can feel like top 6 is, like, nailed on with this squad when we've seen what we just saw over the last month, and we are so lucky, and not really because now we're out of the cups, but we're so lucky that we only played 1 Premier League game in that time period. Had we had played 2, had we played against Spurs and lost to them, and we dropped points against Burnley, we are 100% chasing the group. So we are actually lucky, and we're pretty much in a position of almost false equivalence to the other teams because we're in their proximity. But they are more equipped to fight to get into the top 6 than we are. And I don't know if you guys know what's happening behind us, but Wolves are like a point behind us, and they are gaining speed, and they have a midfield. They have good players, and we play them next. So this idea that it's just okay to go through the window and not improve because that wasn't what we were trying to do, and we're just going to get to the summer transfer window and act like people are going to want to play for Arsenal Football Club with Arteta as manager, but outside of Europe for the second year in a row is just it's just unrealistic. We're being rejected here and there already. And so that's why it just feels a little bit like a joke, but again, we could turn around tomorrow and there's all there's the links are more concrete, but it's 5 days until the window ends, and other teams around us have not only concluded deals but have deals that are speeding up towards the conclusion. And so the idea that we're going to get 2 or 3, even 1 or 2 deals done in these 5 days just feels so whack. Like, it just doesn't feel real. I'm sorry. Like, it just doesn't. And you can't make me feel like it is because we're moving in silence. Like, nah. Nashville Gunner says, it's a big issue. We are aiming to compete in 2 years, and there is a truckload of Saudi money driving down the road from Newcastle to smack us in the face. And this is the last window that we're probably going to have a real chance of being able to sign players that other teams are not going to be able to sign. So we're talking about our Villas, our Wolves, Leicesters, these teams that have come up and ran well and have, if we're honest, have quite similar quality to us in their teams in certain spots, right? And so if we're not, there's no point in signing for Arsenal if we're not in Europe 2 years in a row. And I'm going to keep it 100 with you guys. Like, I do think that having a novice manager makes you less attractive, because a manager that has some credibility and some clout will get you players that you probably shouldn't have, you know? And so Arteta's not really helping us in that way. And I know that he convinced certain players to come, but those are players of a certain level. When we start talking about the other players that could go to other big teams, I'm not sure that Arteta has the clout to really, and this is no shade to him. We hired him, so we should have known this, but he doesn't have the clout to really get us players that we shouldn't be able to have. And unless he pulls off something really special this season, basically we're just a team that's floating around upper mid-table, that's looked at as a fallen giant, and you don't necessarily need to come to us to play at a high level in the Premier League. Steven Gerrard is building a strong team. He clearly has some pull where he can bring in players that maybe are not at the highest level, but, have quality. So what we're looking at for me is, if we don't make this top 6/top 4, then we're looking at being looked at and viewed as like the Aston Villas and the Leicesters and all of that, because we have nothing really to offer them, really, but the big name. And it's fading, you guys. I mean, we've been rejected by Vlahovic. Isak doesn't know if we're the right option for him. I mean, let's not act like Arsenal, the name, is going to get us through. We actually have to achieve something in order to show people that we're going in the right direction. And so that means improving from last year to this year. And so if we don't do that, trying to get our targets then seem like they'll be even more difficult. And you have the Newcastles coming up. And it's strange that we're just kind of like in this holding pattern, and it feels like we are going forward, but it also feels like there's things that we could do to expedite the process a little bit, but we can't do it for one reason or another. So there you go. Um, let's see. Susan says if Arteta wanted to talk about the contract, he would do it at the end of the season. So, as not to distract the team, Josh said we are not done in terms of investment after the summer spending. I mean, then then who are we signing? You know, then who are we signing? Um, I mean, not done spending doesn't necessarily mean we'll spend it in January. You know, there we go. Rancid says we are Arsenal FC. We love drama. Can't wait for deadline day. I've been through like deadline days gone past where we've been sitting there waiting for people that were supposedly on the plane and they never showed up. So I don't think we are really big on transfer deadline day drama. I think we usually end up watching from the sidelines there. So there you go. Rich something says, "Come on, Jess. What's the worst that could happen? We sign good but not elite players and finish sixth. Probably go big in the summer. It's okay." I guess what I'm saying is, I don't think what we have now is good enough to finish sixth. Like, I don't think it secures it. I think we still have a chance, but I can't say that what I saw in January makes me think that if we get one or two injuries, we can't beat Burnley. So I get what you guys are saying. We're in that sixth spot, but we're in there like have with the same points as Spurs and with Wolves behind us. So let's not sit here and pretend like we're clear in sixth. Like, it's not secure. It's not like, so it's just, I don't know. Like, I sit on the side of like, I would rather us try to make sure that, I mean, we've seen, it's not like you can't anticipate danger, and I would like us to anticipate it and then plug holes so that when it inevitably happens, because the worst thing always happens to Arsenal. We get the red card, we get the injury, we get the stupid call, we get this. I would just like for us to cushion ourselves a little bit so that when it happens, we're prepared. And I think we're actually prepared to just go with what we got. And that scares me. It does. Yo-Yo says Vlahovic, Locatelli, Awar back themselves over Arteta's Arsenal. Tommy, Rams, White show gratitude because they're thankful and humble. I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, that's the difference. I mean, the players that want to come to Arsenal are ones that see us as a step up, but the top players, the good players, the ones that we probably need to be signing are ones that you have to try to convince. And Arteta doesn't have a long enough CV really to be convincing these players to come. So we need to achieve something this season. And in order to achieve it, we need to bolster the team a little bit to make sure that when we go just a little bit beneath the surface, we're able to keep up our same level. And that's all I'm asking for. I don't think I'm asking for much, you know? Arsenal Presser says, just put this whole window in rice. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what's going on, but I'm just giving you guys how I'm feeling right now. And 5 days until the end of the window, we're not even in talks with anybody that we know of. It feels very ominous and very like we kind of went all in for Vlahovic. It hasn't worked. Now what? That's what it feels like. And really, until I see something different, that's what it is, So that's just it. Jared says Tielemans doesn't know what to do when his team doesn't have the ball. It's shocking. Oh, so you guys are talking about Tielemans. Okay. Um, um, Rich Something says that's recency bias. Look at December. People are talking about fourth spot. One or two good players should do it now. But you have to get those one or two good players. And that's what I'm saying, Rich Something. I understand that if we just got a couple of players, it looks like we could have fourth spot. But what I'm saying is I don't think those players are coming, and we've seen that the team in December is much different than the team in January because we had a couple of players out. And to think that there won't be more injuries and COVID cases and suspensions in this back end of the season, especially because we're going to be under pressure. And you know how Arsenal handles pressure. I just think that that is just so like negligent to assume that that wouldn't happen. So I get what you're saying. Like one or two good players should do it now, but those one or two players actually coming in? I'm not sure. Let's see. Um, Jared says, we're all freaking out. Save your energy for February 1 if we haven't done anything. That's true, but we're going to talk about it now because people are talking about it now. Hakum says, we can only attract English players that have something to prove as it stands. We do have a market. We have a type, and I think that's why Dominic Calvert-Lewin is somebody who'd probably run to Arsenal if we wanted to bring him in. It's already been reported that we wouldn't have to convince him. And, Ornstein said that he would fit in with the group of players that we already have, probably nice boys that want to come to Arsenal and see Arsenal as a big club and a step up. But the issue is you can't get Dominic Calvert-Lewin in January. I can't see Everton in the mess that they're in right now and the war that's going on between their fans and their board for them to sanction a transfer for one of their best players while they're fighting, to get off of the bottom of the table, out of the bottom of the, they're closer to the relegation zone than they are to mid-table. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin is probably, a good example of an English player that would want to come to Arsenal, but can we get him in January? I don't think so, Saida says, Jess, do you think the reason why our transfers take so long to complete is because of the inexperienced people we have? Possibly. Possibly. It feels like we have a bunch of, doors kind of open all at once, and we let the window get to the very, very end. And then we just start kind of, okay, let's throw the money here, let's throw the money there. But what I do know is that other clubs around us have been able to get deals done quick, fast. And so we know that there's another way of running the club that can get deals done a lot quicker. And it's not really about the size of the deal, really, because the deals that we did in the summer were not big deals, but they all kind of took it to the end of the window, besides Ben White. So for me, it could be the inexperience. It could just be the way that Adu works. It could be just the fact that they did not, and they were not prepared to actually dip into the market the way that we have assumed that they are. Vlahovic may have just given us a little bit more, what's it called? A false sense of what we're doing. Could have just been, well, let's try that. If it doesn't work, then, there you go. One of the more interesting things is that with the Artur deal is that it looks like it has stalled because one, they want to replace him if we were to take him. And honestly, you guys, I don't think that we should take him. Well, this is kind of how I felt before the Bruno Guimaraes news came out. But I mean, could we not shift the money that we were going to use for Vlahovic for something a little bit more substantial than a loan? Clear, but maybe not. Maybe they just wanted to wait into the summer. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It feels like everything is kind of halted. No, I know I'm not in the best mood either, you guys, because again, like I haven't reached the state in my Arsenal fandom of numb and apathy, but I have moved into the stage of almost 70% pessimism where I'm almost kind of like, I just assume the worst. But you can't really blame Arsenal fans for not believing in the club because one good window doesn't change constant disappointment during transfer windows. And I just feel like we're we could be going towards just not really doing much in this window, so and that would be a disappointment to me because I just don't think the team is good enough to sustain a challenge. I don't. The Truth Sets Free says like, share, the drill, get the channel where it deserves to be, to the very top. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Um, let's see. Marcus says, can you guys not go for someone like Watkins, Tony, DCL, Emmanuel Dennis, etc.? I don't know. I don't know. It feels like we were going after Vlahovic because we thought we could get him in January. We knew we couldn't get any of the other options until the summer. We tried it, it didn't work. And now we're like, okay, well, what do you want us to do? You know? So Matt G says the other teams look faster because we only hear about them at the last minute. I bet rival fans also think their transfers take ages. I guess that's a good point as well. Mohammed says my expectation for this January was low. I would have been happy with Chris Wood and Trippier. Okay. D7 says, just tell me one signing that is a flop since Arteta and Adu had full control of transfers after the party summer window. I mean, it's not about what was a flop or not. That's a one good window that we have given them credit for that, but that we're at the next window now. So again, like I get it's like, well, you can't really attribute all the past failures to them because they weren't here. But at the same time, you also can't just say, well, then you fully trust them. Trust is built over time. And so it's been one window where they did well in a certain market in players that were 20 to 30 million, and they did well. Weren't able to get Vlahovic over the line. We never really had a chance for that. But now we're sitting in a position where I don't think top six is stamped on, but we may let the window pass us by and just risk it. And hopefully that risk does not hurt us. And that's all I'm really saying. Like, I get that they did well in that window. Like, I get that, like they did fine in that window. Do you guys think somebody is coming in? Like, honestly, like, show of hands, who thinks that there's still signings coming and who do you think they will be? Do you think we are signing anyone? I just want to know what you guys think because I really sat there for a minute. I was like, why do I think we're actually going to sign people? It may not have been on the cards to sign anybody, you know? Um, High Tech J says, I also think there's a lot of players we can go for. We'll go to Wolves because they are way less pressure than at Arsenal. We have elite level expectations, but low level quality. That's a good point as well. Like, not a lot of players are going to be able to handle being in a stabilizing, rebuilding Arsenal team with a lot of expectations and a lot of pressure. I feel like maybe some of the players that have come in over the summer and maybe over the last 2 summers are feeling a little bit of that. There is no rest at Arsenal. There is no games where you're not expected to win or, be competitive in. You're pretty much the favorites in almost every single match and you're expected to win and nobody's going to save you, not the referees, not anybody. And the scrutiny and the criticism is worse than at most clubs. So like Ramsdale, for example, I think that, he's been shaky as of late and it may just be because the pressure is high. We have a lot of kids that are being asked to perform at a very high level with no respite from senior players because they're nowhere to be found. And it's a lot of pressure, because this young team has got to qualify for Europe and it's not that easy. It's not like it was a couple of years ago where there were only like 4 or 5 good teams. It's like everybody on the first page is pretty damn good and they are all improving their squads. They have good managers, they know how to play good football and they're coached well. So being at Arsenal 23, 24, 22, 20, 21 years old and being asked to carry this squad is very, very difficult. So we do have to look for players with the right mentality. And I do think that Ramsdale and Gabrielle and Odegaard and them have the right mentality, but they need to be surrounded by some players that are going to stand up and relieve some of that pressure. And we just don't have that, at the moment. And we can't really attract that either, because players of a certain age are going to want to make moves to clubs that they feel like are going to be competing for shit. So I do think that we'll be in this market for a while unless something changes. Jared says we have a certain profile. Look at our summer signings, all 23 and younger. If that's not available to us in January, then we move. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Let's see. Thrilla from Manila says, can we possibly recall Guendouzi or Torreira? I don't think either of them want to come back. To be honest, I think they're both pretty happy where they're at. And Guendouzi is pretty much a Marseille player. And that's one thing, is that Fiorentina have just gotten a large wad of cash. So if they want Torreira, they need to freaking pay up. No more of these loans. Torreira will most likely go in the summer, but I don't think we can recall either of them. And I don't think bringing them back from a place that they're really happy at and then bringing them into this pressurized situation that they don't want to be is a good idea. Colby says, Charles Watts was saying earlier that there was never a feeling around the club that Dusan was going to happen. Then why are you doing it? Then why are you wasting the time? What you doing? Just doing it for shits and giggles? That's cool. That's what you're getting paid the big bucks for. Yo-Yo says, flop. Do people remember how Shamak started at Arsenal? Yeah, I think we also have to wait a little bit longer as well to see how the players really get on after like a full year. They've been pretty good so far, but we're getting into the business part of the season where things are pressurized. Every single point matters, and we're coming off of a bad spell, so we'll see how they rebound from that. High Tech says no way. Christopher says nah. Doyen Sola says not at all. O'Malley says, I'm sure there will be signings. Nashville says, I do 2 loans, Jovic and Genie. The one thing is that Jovic has already said that he's not interested in moving from Real Madrid in January. So I also think that that's off the table as well. And so I think that kind of ends our striker trying to get one in. Jovic doesn't want to leave Real Madrid. Isak is probably thinking in the summer bigger clubs will come for him. And Vlahovic said no, so there you go. Let's see. True says free says nah. Matt G says, I think the goalie is coming in. That's it. I mean, we do know how to sign goalkeepers. If we know how to do anything, we know how to sign goalkeepers and center backs. So there you go. Wayne says, yes, I don't know who, though. Rich says, yes, 1 or 2 midfielders will come. Yo-Yo says, yes. D7 says, Jess, you trust till they break it. So all I'm saying is that we got to be calm as long as they uphold what they've been doing. Yeah, I think it depends on what kind of person you are. Some people trust and then allow you to break it. Personally, I'm more like you have to gain trust. You're pretty much the enemy until I think there's been enough time where I've seen you put reps in. And right now they have 1 good window under their belt. Really. Christopher says, we'll wait till the summer. Leopold says yes. Newman says they'll get some average midfield loan in, and Arteta will cave in on Aubameyang out of desperation. Tony says we will sign a towel boy. Captain Joka says Isak and Bruno will come. I highly doubt that based on reports from today. And Entendon says nope. But we've loaned everyone out, so not sure what they're playing at. I don't know either. We've loaned a bunch of players out. Maybe there is a grand plan. I want to sit here on the 1st of February and be happy and like, oh my gosh, we did this madness. But when I've had this feeling in the past of nothing happening, it usually the window passes us by. So I don't know. I don't know. I do think maybe the goalkeeper comes in. Maybe we're waiting on Newcastle to make a move on Leno. I don't know. It's kind of like also people stall on taking our players from us unless it's like free and clear. So unless if they have to pay something, it usually takes forever or it doesn't happen. But if they can get them on a loan with no option, they are ready to snap that up. And we know that the Newcastle thing was a loan with a possible obligation if Leno was to help them stay stay up. And so maybe they're looking for the midfielder and then they'll go after the goalkeeper and then we'll get our goalkeeper in and then that will be what the window gives us. Colby says, I feel if anything is going to happen, we're going to activate Isak's release clause because if that clause isn't going to change between now and the summer, if he is a target, we should just grab him now. The problem, Colby, is that there are already reports out that he doesn't want to come to Arsenal and he doesn't see Arsenal as the right fit. I get that he said that some very complimentary things about Henri, but quite frankly, Henri is not Arsenal. And so even if you admired Henri, that doesn't mean that you feel Arsenal is your best choice. So yeah, I kind of tend to listen when they say that the player is not interested. It's one thing to have to negotiate with the club, but once the player is like, I'm not sure if that's the place that I want to go, I don't think have we changed a player's mind yet about whether or not they should come to Arsenal? I don't think so, so there's that. I would love Isak to come if he wanted to. Soraya says Arsenal are not going to sign anyone because they have 18 games left in one game a week. Yeah, it could be a little bit of that too. That's kind of where I'm like, okay, well, they're probably thinking we're not in any cups. We only have to get through 17 games. What are the chances of Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey and El Neni being unavailable? We'll just make it to the end of the season, and we'll see what happens from there. Blaze says, I think Arsenal will sign a striker, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but no midfielder. Rancid says we will sign one or two players. Yo-Yo says, people don't want to admit that they lowered expectations and standards due to Arteta. You wouldn't be as fearful if Arsenal weren't developing a manager. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why, you have to add Arteta into the equation a little bit because him learning on the job ultimately means that just like with young players, you're going to drop points. With a new learning manager, you're going to drop points, So you have the Arteta factor. You have the fact that the entire team is full of kids that are carrying us. The senior players are unreliable for one reason or another. And that's not really that good of a cocktail for making a real push to get into the top 4/top 6. So yeah, I think I would feel a little bit more confident if we had a manager that, had some clout. I 100% believed in and all that kind of stuff. So Arteta is he is what he is. Like, I think Arteta has really good ideas and he does good things and we can see what he's trying to do, but ultimately he is still a manager learning on the job. And so there will be some points dropped because of that. Let's see. Caesar says Arsenal are through the worst of its schedule congestion wise. Don't think any big move will happen. Yeah, I mean, when you take that into consideration, it makes sense. Why sign anybody if we only have 17 games left? D7 says I take Genie for now and a big striker if possible, but we could fight for top 4 with that. Yeah, with a midfielder and a striker, we could. Without it, we're looking at trying to stay in the top 6 for sure. Let's see. Yeah, and then there'll also be some, players coming back from AFCON. I do think that as much as, and this is the thing, it's when you're not really prepared and things go against you, then when you make strong decisions, then they kind of brought back into your face. So, does Arteta, crumble a little bit and bring Aubameyang back into the squad? Maybe. I don't see it, but we know Pepe will come back, and that's why I was kind of happy to see that he was doing well at AFCON, because I'm hoping that he can bring some of that form back because we're going to need him. We're going to need every single player. These players are going to touch the pitch at least once or twice. And so they have to play well. We really do notice it when we rotate even just a little bit. So, excuse me, Pepe, is somebody that, will probably feel like a new signing. El Neni will feel like a new signing. These guys coming back in because we just have been so dire. We don't have any backups that we like, really. James says, you pose a good question. Why pursue if it's not going to happen? What do you think an answer could be? Why pursue if it's not going to happen? I don't know what your question is. Can you rephrase it? Maybe I'm just, I don't know, maybe I'm sleepy. um Kobe says Dusan is actually pronounced Abbas, like when Locatelli was actually pronounced Shaka. Yeah, perfect. Exactly. Yo-Yo says, I want to believe Arteta Edu are not are silly, not stupid. Someone is joining the club. C1 London, Jesson Isak as a footballer, I think his ceiling is extremely high, but he is also extremely raw. So the release clause that we would have to pay in order to get him to the Emirates in January / in the summer would be very steep for somebody that doesn't really have the goal return that that type of price would usually require. But I think he is somebody that feels like an Arsenal player. He feels like a kind of like a classic Kanu Henry-ish type of forward that has the skills, is not just somebody that not a Lukaku with a trampoline for a right foot, somebody that has a little bit of skill about them, can hold up the ball, but also is kind of quick and agile and mobile. And so I do think he's a good player. I would take him at Arsenal if he wanted to actually come. But I do like Isak. I think his ceiling is really high, but I think there would be a little bit of a gap there in terms of the talent, raw talent that we see, and the readiness that's probably there. Okay. Tony says, has this been the silliest of silly seasons? I have to say it's been one of the more sillier of recent, just because it feels like we're losing out to so many players, and we're probably not, because the thing is the reports have already come out that Bruno Guimaraes was not a big target and all that kind of stuff. And we have other targets and all of that. So, we probably didn't rate him that much and all this kind of stuff. So did we really lose out to Newcastle for a player that we didn't really want? Vlahovic was always a long shot. And Isak, it's just whatever. It's just a very perfectly timed for silliness, piece of reporting there, that right after Vlahovic says that he's not convinced of Arsenal, Isak says the same thing. So I think we're very sensitive right now. I know I am, because I just don't think I can handle Arsenal outside of Europe one more season. And I feel like it's on a knife edge right now, and getting 2 players in would really help. So I think that's kind of what it is. And so it feels silly. We haven't been linked with like the Draxlers and the those types that we're always usually linked to. So that has kind of kept it from being like peak silly season. But I have to be honest, this has been probably, I think I prefer the January transfer window where we kind of know we're not going to do anything, like they come out right away and say nothing is happening, versus this, yeah, we know what we need to do, we're in the market and this and that. And Arteta's tone really changed like quickly after the Vlahovic stuff. Or it seemed like Vlahovic was starting to drift away. It went from, yeah, we know what we need to do, we're confident, we can get these things done, blah, 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 to it's a very difficult window and I'm not sure what's going to happen. So I just prefer them from the very beginning to just say nothing is going to happen, if that's in case what they think is good, like what they anticipate. I don't know. Maybe they really thought they had a chance with Vlahovic, but Charles Watt said they didn't. So like, what were we doing? Let's see. Diallo says, hi, Jess and the gang. Just dropped by to say hello and hit the like button. A bit busy at work. We'll catch up on the playback. Thank you so much for coming in, Diallo. I really appreciate it. Um, Jared says, if that money is true about Bentancur, get it done. Don't let him go to Villa for less than 20 million. I don't know much about Bentancur, so I don't know if he's that good, to be honest, but I'm sure Villa will get it done. The Truth Sets Free, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Colby says, this is the first time I can remember in 25 years of supporting the club that we don't have a superstar. Yeah, I mean, we really don't. Not right now. We don't have. That's really what hurt against Burnley, is that we didn't have somebody to bail us out when we really weren't playing that well. And that kind of used to be Aubameyang, but he's fallen off massively. And so without Aubameyang, I mean, it's been a while since we've had like a superstar player that, everybody recognized as world class, and, everybody just, they made all of this start, like all the combined 11s, they were in there, top player. Right now we have a bunch of promising young kids and some very inconsistent and unreliable senior players. And maybe we're just waiting for our young players to become superstars, but that could be a while. That could be a while. All right. Tafer says, Genie is done, lads. He was run into the ground by Liverpool. I don't know if I think Genie is somebody that's going to come in either. Let's see. Zeke says, is it time to look for internal solutions? Pepe up top. What about Martinelli at center forward? I mean, those are things that they're going to have to look at. Like, we're not going to get through these 17 games with that same starting 11 every single week. We don't even know when Tomiyasu is coming back because we already rushed him back in. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, well, what are we going to do? We have to use Pepe. As much as people don't like Pepe, I'm not his biggest fan, but he could be useful at the back end of the season because at least he can put the ball in the back of the net. Martinelli at center forward is something that I think is more hypothetical and just kind of like out in the ether than something that's actually could happen. Because I think Martinelli is developing out wide and will eventually end up in the set as a center forward. But the reason why he's so good out wide is because he can usually be isolated against one player. He's going to get kicked by those center forwards or center backs. So I don't necessarily feel like that's a really good solution, but we may have to try some things because we will have situations where we'll need to look. And if we don't bring people in, especially at center forward, we're a Lacazette injury away from Lacazette bad form, like bad couple of games away from really drifting away. Like, it's really that serious, like, for me, to be honest. Hakum says it's funny how Arteta has fallen out with loaned out all of our midfield depth. I don't know, like that's what I thought the other day too. I was like, it's amazing how Arteta and Adu were both midfielders, but they can't seem to get the midfield going. They don't seem to feel like getting midfield backup is important. And that is a joke. Like, you guys were midfielders. You think you would know the importance of it. But he has gotten rid of all of our midfield backups. And we can't go back in history and go with hindsight here and say, well, we should have been able to anticipate that, a season or so after we got rid of Guendouzi and Torreira, we'd have this shortage, because I'm sure that they maybe thought other things would come to fruition. And I don't know, but Guendouzi, Torreira, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, we could use them right now. So there you go. No, for me, Aubameyang's not a superstar. He was an elite goal scorer, and he's not anymore, to be honest. Yo-Yo says, Pepe, Arteta will reveal himself as a coward. I first suspected it. Yeah. High Tech J says, the midfield players we had either didn't want to be here or disrespect the club. Exactly. So we can't really go back in time and act like there weren't reasons why they aren't here. But if you just want to kind of erase that, you could say that we could really use those players, So there's definitely some connection there, but at the same time, like, I can't go back and say that like Guendouzi should be here because I thought he was a prick, So there you go. So yeah, but it's I think a lot of us are kind of feeling similar. Some people are a little bit more optimistic than others, which is fine. It's 5 days left, and we could be having a completely different conversation in the next couple of days. But I have definitely tempered my expectations. I don't know. I don't know. And I want us to finish in those European spots. Like, if we're out for 2 seasons in a row, I don't think people really understand how difficult it's going to be for us to recruit the players that we need to in the summer, because the players that we need to recruit this summer are not under 23s that like are easy to get. We need to take that next step up. And let's just throw a couple names out there. Ruben Neves, Basuma. Let's just throw those two names out there. Depending on where we finish, we might not be the most attractive place to go for even players like that. 25, 24, 25-year-olds that have been in the Premier League for a while, and we'll have a couple of different teams looking at them. We know like Basuma is being looked at by us, Newcastle, and Aston Villa. So, I mean, if Villa finished right below us, maybe he chooses to go there because Gerrard definitely has more pull than Arteta. So Ruben Neves been looked at by United, looked at by us. Who is he going to choose? The team that finished in the top four, or the team that finished sixth or below? So I think when you look at it, we need to kind of be honest. Like, you can't really finish outside of Europe twice with Arteta as your manager and really sit there with a straight face trying to convince players to come. Like, we have this great project going, but they can't see it in tangible results like the table. And sometimes that's all that really matters, is the table. Rich Something says, we just want players who are an improvement on what we got. Neves is such a player. Yeah, but if you want a player like Neves, you have to kind of be an attractive destination. And so if you wait until the summer, I think, yeah, like, I can't say 100% that I feel like he would choose us over anybody else. So yeah, it's one of those. But there was also some little bit of news about Saliba as well. I do think this is a little bit of media pile on. Let's keep it real. Like, once Arsenal are in the mud, they continue to shove us further and further into the pit. But of course, reports are coming out about Saliba being interested or okay with staying at Marseille, provided that they finish in Champions League. And so, yeah, I don't know what Arsenal are looking to do there, but we don't need to spend another summer transfer window buying center backs. We need to focus at the top end of the pitch. We need to focus on the positions that are going to change us from mid-table to an actual top four contender, and that's midfield and striker. And so if we need to go back and start looking for center backs and goalkeepers again, we're going to be more behind. So I just think, like, this is where Arteta this is the one that, if I had to look at any of these guys that I don't really, that I don't think we've done much bad to, but Marseille sit in third, which ends up being a UEFA Champions League qualifier position. So they're in a good space to get into Champions League. So we could say, okay, well, Saliba, of course he would want to stay at Arsenal because we're the Arsenal and we have this connection to French players, but that shit don't really matter anymore. Like, one team's going to be playing potentially in the Champions League and the other one may not, so this is one where I just feel like Arteta kind of needs to make this one right, because you really cannot be selling Saliba and he's running his deal down, as well. So asking for 50 million from Marseille, they'll just laugh it off and say, we'll get him for free, in a year, F off, so it's one of those where you need to get him back to the Emirates in the summer and make him feel like he's an important part of the team and turn it around. There really hasn't been many turnaround stories for Arteta, none that have lasted longer than like a couple of weeks. and this is kind of the one that needs to be the turnaround. Saliba, I just feel the narrative around it, the way that the fan base feels about Saliba, the obvious improvements that he's made in League One would make it so unfortunate to never see him play in an Arsenal shirt and to sell him to Marseille for peanuts, especially when we know we're going to need center backs because we don't have very many, and the ones that we have backing up our starters are shit, and Saliba is one of the best young center backs in Europe. So I think we have to be very careful here. The Saliba story obviously coming out today, I think is more due to media pylon, and they probably known something like this and just was like, this is a perfect time to throw this nugget out here. But nevertheless, it does make me feel a little bit uneasy that it feels like we may have to sell him to get anything for him, and he may not want to come back to Arsenal. Like, there is a little bit of something there that makes me think, like, if Marseille is in Champions League and they're starting him day in and day out, why come back to Arsenal to sit behind Ben White? Potentially in Europa Conference League or Europa League or whatever we'll be in. So yeah, it's one of those, but if we do end up selling him, it needs to be for more than we paid for him. So we paid like 27 million for him. They definitely are going to have to put up the money for it. So yeah, that was another story that came out today. So it has been, Vlahovic, Isak, Saliba, Bruno Guimaraes, even though he wasn't a real target, whatever, it just feels kind of constant. And we don't really feel closer to signing anybody, which is like, thank you so much. The Truth Sets Free. I really appreciate your super chat. Nashville says, we won't sell him to Marseille. We will sell him to PSG. Relax. Hopefully, Jason Andrews says, needs gross mismanagement, gave away his number 4. It will be looked at that way as if we have to sell him in the summer. It won't be received well. We all know that. Yeah, and I hear they have a transfer ban, but they're also looking to get it overturned, and so we have to wait on that. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Leopold is saying, breaking news, Arthur loan signed. Oh, I don't know. Is it real or not? Is it real, you guys, or not? I don't know. Let's see. I just have no faith. I don't see anything that says he's signed, so it was a major look, one of those, isn't it? So, yeah, let's see. You're welcome, Thrilla from Manila, and I think you just signed up to be a member, so thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and hopefully we have more fun things to talk about within the next couple of weeks, but I do appreciate you joining as a member. Yes. Susan says, Arteta in Denver for a reason, 75 million release clause. Arteta backed by Pep to be one of the greatest coaches in the world. Took us bottom to close to Champions League in 5 months. Keep your heads. That is a positive way of thinking about that. I will say that. Pep is one of those that literally sits there and talks about every single one of his opponents as if they were such a difficult game when they killed them 4 or 5-0, so I think we have to take a little bit of what Pep has said with a grain of salt, especially because Arteta is one of his best friends. So but he has improved us. I won't say that he hasn't improved us, and I have seen improvements over this season, but we still see those holes in the squad, and they kind of need to be fixed, but I do hear what you're saying. Let's see. Yeah. Captain Joka says, everyone is forgetting that we have the Amazon All or Nothing following us everywhere. It will be stupid for us not to go big this January. Maybe that was the Vlahovic play. I don't know. Maybe it was get this striker in and it's a big deal, but um as of now, I'll be skipping that part of the documentary because not only is it going to be documenting our terrible run in January, but the window that was not. So there you go. But hopefully they pull something up. Hopefully they pull something off. I don't know. I don't know, you guys. Artie Tusenis says, if Saliba was in a team, White could work perfect backup DM. Possibly, it would just be so nice if we could smooth things over with Saliba, make him feel important. And this is something else that I feel like in the next couple of weeks I do want to talk about, but we're going to do a mid-season review. But there is a conversation to be had about, all the players that are out. So if you're in the starting 11, you're Arteta's people, but everybody beyond that is kind of like out, and there has to be some way of managing the squad and managing people going out where it feels like there's a way back so we can actually use them. And so, I look at the squad and I just think everybody that comes off of the bench beyond Holding, that looks like he's one of Arteta's favorites, is like out, and they don't have confidence and they can't help us. And everybody that goes out on loan is somebody that has been banished, or is running away from Arsenal because of how they feel like they've been treated. So there has to be a conversation around the management of the squad. You can't just have your starting 11 and then when that starting 11 isn't there, then be upset when you have to use the group that you basically made it obvious that they're just here to fill the numbers. Like, it's just they have no confidence, and that's when you get using Tomiyasu. That's when you get the pushing the Thomas Party back onto the pitch. That's when you get the overplaying of Bukayo Saka. It's beyond the starting 11. He doesn't trust any of the other players, and it feels like you're either in or you're out, and there's no gray area with him. And so when you're out on loan, there really isn't any. When people go out on loan beyond the academy kids, they're out because he doesn't want them near us, or they don't want to be near us. And that's an issue, and he could kind of like try to smooth things over with Saliba, and try to make him feel important, because I'm not convinced that the players that aren't starting feel important. And in other teams, it just doesn't feel like we have like other teams, it feels like their bench is not dying to get out of there, and they're important to the team and they can come off the bench and make a difference. And you look at it with like Pepe, do you think he feels important to the team? You know, Sambi, he lost so much confidence. He was basically removed out of the squad, basically for doing basically nothing. And now we're trying to use him, but he hasn't been used in a while. He's been on the outskirts of the squad after starting so well at Arsenal. There's something weird going on with Tavares, I think, so there has to be a way to manage the squad better so that you're not just in or out. It can't be that, because you can't just wait to buy new players and not be able to use what you have. And, because that's when we look at the squad, sometimes we're like, it's not that bad, but it's more bad because you can't get much out of what you got. And I think that's because they just don't feel, I'm projecting here, but it just feels like if you're not in the starting 11, you're not a part of my group. And so you're just kind of here until I move you on. And yeah, it feels a little bit of that. And so there are some things that Arteta needs to improve upon. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that, because as a manager that's developing, there's going to be parts of management that that you're just not good at. And I think managing the people in the squad that aren't a part of his people is kind of an issue. So yeah, and I don't think that he's a dictator. That's not what I'm saying. If I was saying that he was a dictator, I would be saying that anybody that doesn't listen to him is ousted from the squad. But what I am saying is that you are kind of either in or out. Um, and the people that are on the bench almost feel unusable. And when they came in, they didn't feel unusable. And the people that are on loan have no way back. They're either we're running from Arsenal or we were pushing them away from Arsenal. And so to me, that speaks to just maybe a little bit of something that Arteta may need to improve upon. That doesn't mean I'm calling him a dictator, but we are not getting a lot out of our squad. And when we have to tap into it, we either rush players back or overplay players to not have to use them, or when they come out on the pitch, they look devoid of confidence and they are basically rendered useless. And so that's kind of how I feel about it, you know. So and Arteta can't wait until he gets all these transfer windows and then only use the players that he's bought. Like there are value in some of the players that we have, and it's amazing to me like how bad Cedric is. You know, I think Pablo Marie became somebody that just had to go because he wasn't getting any playing time, but we don't have another left-sided center back. So it's just strange, like, you know. So I can't say that I don't think that there's something there, but it's something that he needs to improve upon a little bit. So yeah, there, you know, um, it may sound harsh, Arsenal Granny. It may sound harsh, but that's my how I see it. You know, that's how I see it. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't do well with the players that he really likes. But you have to be honest, like we're not getting the most out of the entire squad. And when you just scratch under that surface a little bit, and other teams are not really like this, you know, other teams can kind of use the squad and keep the same levels, at least get some sort of level out of the players that they have. But it doesn't seem like we really can. And so, yeah, you know, and I really don't understand the loaning Ainsley Maitland-Niles out before we had a suitable replacement. I think that might have been a mistake, you know, but it was kind of like, you want to go, let's get you out of here. And I just wish we could have, if, you know, we could have, it's a loan, you know, it's a loan. So we could have kept him a little bit longer. There's just some things like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if you disagree, tell me what you think. Do you think that we're getting the most out of the squad and the players that come off the bench are just literally not good enough? And you don't see it as the players that are on loan have either been pushed out because they need to go away, or they've been running away from Arsenal because they didn't like the way that they were treated. And they don't seem to have a way back. There's no way back for Guendouzi. There's no reconciling. There's no like, you know, once you've kind of had like a little bit of a friction, you're kind of gone. And so that doesn't really help when you have windows like this where you can't really get your deals over the line potentially. Then you're meant to use those players still. And it won't really happen that much to the back end of the season. We won't have to use we will have to use the squad, but not as much as we didn't we had to in January. But I don't think that that's harsh at all. That maybe Arteta has things to work on because like he's a new coach, you know, and that's one of the things I think he could do better. So yeah. Jean Rene says he gets the most out of El Neni, Leno, Holding, Chambers, Tavares, and Kedia. Ainsley Maitland-Niles performed every time he came on. Sure, you know, fair enough. You know, if you think that they were getting the most out of the squad and those guys are coming off of the bench looking like they are ready to perform and win the game, and like, I mean, Nottingham Forest is a really good example of a team that just looked like they couldn't be asked to be there. With We had some of our starters and our rotated options, and the rotated options didn't look like they were chomping at the bit to really do anything to win a spot or to perform for the team. And Ketia did not perform well in that game. Tavares did not perform well in that game. Holding did not perform well in that game. So I think he can get a little bit more out of the squad and keep the players in the gray area a little bit more motivated by using them here and there. Somebody like Sandy probably could have used minutes before January. In the month of December, he probably could have used some more minutes so that when we had to inevitably use him in January, he wasn't so rusty. These are the things that I'm kind of talking about, you guys. It's just a little it's not kill Arteta, boom, but can we not is there no real like, okay, well, he's new, so there might be some things he's not good at, or is it just he's great, he's perfect, He can't be. He's too new of a manager. Um Let's see. Jean Rene says, but that's just one game, Jess. But I agree. Of course, he can get even more. I mean, it's not one game though. It's the cup matches that we played in the Europa League last season. It was Southampton in the FA Cup last season. When we rotate, we just don't get performances from the players that are on the periphery of the team. And we say that it's because they're just shit. But when I look across the league, I don't think that a lot of their backup players are much better than ours, but they seem to be able to get something from them. And that's all I'm really saying, you guys. That's it. But yeah, you guys, I think that's going to be it for today. I just wanted to pop on and just tell you guys kind of how I'm feeling, see what you guys are feeling. And yeah, just shoot the shit. And so yeah, I feel a little bit better now. Hopefully within the next couple of days, we're talking about something different and we're a little bit more excited. Either way, on February 1st, we'll know what we're dealing with. And we move from there. Make sure you guys, there's about 240 of you guys watching. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Sorry, I had like a tickle in my throat and I was like, I'm trying to finish. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, consider becoming a member. You guys can leave comments after and tell me what you guys are thinking. This was so much fun. Thank you guys. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, y'all.